welcome. I'm so excited you've tuned into the Sacred Gut Punch podcast, the place of authentic stories, real breakthroughs, and endless possibilities. I'm Dr. Tomi White-Bryan. I'm a coach and consultant in human and organizational performance and the creator of Emotional Intelligence 3.0, a system for achieving extraordinary performance. I am so excited about our guest today, Marijo Puleo. And if I massacred your last name, I apologize. I'm just not very good with English, even though it's my native language. But I met Marijo at a community of practice. It was January, correct? It wasn't April. I get confused.
April.
It was April. I've known you across lifetimes, so it feels like longer than April, right?
It's a little more fresh. Yes.
Yes, it's more fresh, right? In this lifetime, I met you in April, right? And Marijo is just this remarkable human being whose light drew me in immediately when it was just, I saw her and I'm like, I got to be friends. I don't know if she wants to be friends with me, but I'm going to be friends with her, darn it. And so Marijo is going to share with us. And Marijo, thank you for being here. It's such a delight to see you and be with you in this way.
Well, thank you for the invite. And I am absolutely delighted to be here and to be in your light.
Thank you. And so we just jump right in, Marijo, and tell us about your Sacred Gut Punch.
So it was, I think, 2004. Again, dates are kind of, way back when. I was working a corporate job. I had been a consultant for a long time, switched back to corporate, and was really struggling in the company, just really having a hard time. And I wound up getting fired. And so for me, who, for years I was on that traditional, get to this promotion, get to this, next hill, let's go up, let's achieve all the American dream, every corner of it. And I got fired. And it was actually one of the best things that ever happened to me.
It's so lovely to hear you say that, and we'll hear the story of that. But as you were talking, I just really, I had this visual of climbing the corporate ladder, right? We're supposed to climb the corporate ladder. That's the dream. Get as high as we can go. And then, and what do you mean I got fired? Oh, what?
Yeah. So what happened was, and I didn't know until later, I actually had undiagnosed PTSD.
Oh my.
And it was an abusive culture. And it was just bringing up all kinds of stuff. At one point, one of the VPs had said to my boss, who was a VP in HR, she said, I keep kicking her and she's not responding.
Oh my gosh.
And nobody thought there was a problem with that.
Wow.
And I was just having an emotional meltdown completely. Like I was sobbing on the way into work. And I didn't know what was up. I didn't understand it. And then, one day, my boss, he called me in. He says, let's talk. 7:30 Monday morning. That's never a good thing. And he said, well, what's going on? And I said, I figured it out. There was trauma in my childhood, and all of this is coming up. And in that moment, I knew I was fired. I knew I was gone.
Is that when you just let it all go? You just, I know I'm getting fired. Let me just say whatever comes to mind.
No, actually, I didn't. And then the rest of the week, so there was this war that was happening where my ego was like, no, you got to pretend that nothing's wrong. And, and it was delirious. So Friday was my last day, packed up the office on my way out. And then the next Monday morning, I'm standing in front of the coffee pot making coffee. And I envisioned 2 batons in my hands. One baton was, this will define you. The other baton was, make this a defining moment. And for 6 months, every morning, I stood in front of a coffee pot and put down the baton of this will define you and picked up the baton of make this a defining moment. And then that day, how do I make this a defining moment?
So, for our listeners, can you distinguish between those two? What does the first one mean, and what does the second one mean to you?
That it defines me. I just had incredible shame over the whole thing,
Okay.
right? And I'll never have another corporate job. I actually had a call with a recruiter a couple of days later, and the whole thing was, well, why did you leave? Da, da, da. And I was just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm never going back to corporate. That road is completely closed to me. But I still had incredible shame, pretending, it was them, not me. And for the next few years, I went through and I was like, this is what they were doing, on them. This is what I need to own. And so part of the defining moment was, yeah, it was a crazy place. That's them. But here's how it came up for me. And I literally thought to myself, I can't just keep kicking the can down the road. Like inside, I always knew something was wrong, something was broken. Every time something would happen, I'd invent another rule of like, oh, never do that again. Oh,
Mm.
never do that again. And I was living in a box so tight that if I farted, I'd pass out.
I get that sensation of being in a small jail cell.
Yes, it was a very tight jail cell.
A box, I a jail cell of our own making.
Yeah, yeah. And it was all the rules that I
Mhm.
didn't understand what was going on with me, that I would then invent another rule to keep me safe. And then it just wound up being like crazy making. Like, I wasn't in my heart. I just I really lost my way.
Mhm. Wow. Wow. And you're not, I mean, many of us lost our way. It was the only way to find it.
That's true. And so me deciding I have to stop kicking the can down the road. I need to figure out what's going on with me, why I was having that reaction. And, when you start doing personal development, you have no skills whatsoever. You're just like, okay, what's happening here? Any road looks like a promising road, and there were a lot of false starts, a lot of dead ends, a lot of things that I actually, in trying to find my own healing, I wound up actually exacerbating the PTSD. And again, I didn't know I had PTSD, but I wound up thinking, well, this time it'll be different. Going through that same trauma over and over again, but okay, but this time I'll be better and I'll figure out and I'll find a way out of this.
What you're describing is so just powerful because it's the way many of us approach self-help and personal development. I say my next book is going to be When Self-Help Stops Helping, right?
Yes.
Because I think those of us who are committed to this journey of evolution to be the best that we can, that many of the paths have false flags, right? And it's trial and error. And part of the reason why I developed this model that I created is I don't want anybody else. I don't want someone to waste 20 years in the desert like I did, right? And I hear beneath the words, I hear the pain of doing all these things that really weren't solving the challenge you were being confronted by.
Very true. At one point, I was suicidal.
Oh.
And
Mm.
for a week, I walked around literally like I was at the train station, the Amtrak station. If you saw me, I was plastered up against the wall away from the track because I didn't trust myself to not jump in front of the train.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
When I was crossing a street, I had to like pull myself away to not, it was like there were two things at war inside of me. And I swear I had these angels that were like, no, 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 don't step too close to that corner there. Just come stand over here for a while. But I literally felt, they talk about the two wolves. Like I really felt like the two wolves were so activated in me, and the ego wolf was roaring, roaring, and destructive, pushing me like I felt shredded
Mm.
because I was like, what's going on with me? And it was one of those things that it just got so intense. And then I went on a 1-year sabbatical where I was like, okay, I'm just stepping out of life for a while. And I found the Brennan School for Healing along that path. Actually, it was our friend Chris Wall that directed me that way.
Yeah, someone else in our community of practice.
And she asked me if I had ever seen the book Hands of Light. And I'm like, yeah, I have it on my shelf. Well, I opened it up and all of a sudden it all started making sense.
Mm.
Whereas before I looked at it and I was like, I don't get this, and I put it away. I got to the Brennan School for Healing, and it was such a safe, magnificent, healing, structured environment that was it was amazing. And it wasn't until 4 years after I started the school that I finally got diagnosed with PTSD,
Wow.
which then, it made a lot more sense. But
Mm.
I remember talking to you work with a therapist while you go through that program, which is a godsend. And I remember working with the therapist and sharing with her an experience I had with this other group that I was working with. And I was sobbing on the phone. I mean, it was just so re-traumatizing what was happening. And she said to me, promise me you will never go back there again.
Wow.
They don't know how to work with you. They don't see you and they don't see what's going on. And this woman, Catherine, was like a lifesaver. She was just so amazing and it life changing for me to be able to have somebody with just that loving presence. And we'd get on the phone and Catherine would say, so, Mary Jo, how are you doing? And I would just burst out in tears
Mm.
because it was just such a loving, welcoming space, unconditional love. I had never experienced that.
You could put the guard down,
Yeah.
right? You could put the
Yes.
guard down, and there's something about that action that just cracks the heart open, doesn't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely.
And what I love is that, several of the episodes of the podcast, people have talked about the angels that have shown up for them. And she sounds like an angel that was put on your path so that you could start your journey to feeling better.
The school was full of angels. It was her and others, which was so amazing because I just, and when you're coming from that ego and it's just, you're casting aspersions and they must be, you're mistrusting. And it took me a long time to really understand, no, I can really trust these people. They really have good intentions. They're really coming from a place of love and heart open, very heart centered. And it took a long time for me to relax into that. And I'm glad I did.
What's so beautiful about what you're saying is the community of practice that we belong to. That is what they've been for me for the last 13 years, is showing me the pathway to the open heart. And that is such a profound thing. I'm sitting here a little jealous that you had that, and grateful that you had it at the same time. But how many of us miss out in life because we never develop that level of trust that allows us to fully open the heart and experience life that way?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, going on to become an energy healer and a coach, And, it's been years. I graduated the 4-year program, 2013, and 2015 from the advanced program. So it's been 10 years. And in those 10 years, just really continuing to open up, develop, new tools, working with clients, holding that loving presence. And, awareness is 90% of the work.
Boy, isn't that true? I can't remember the lady's name who's done the research. It's something like 85% of us or 91% of us think we're aware, but really only like 18% of us, 15% of us are. And what a crazy statistic. And in my model, I don't say people are unaware. I frame it as there's a lens of the location that won't let you see the behaviors at the higher level. It's not that you're not aware, it's that the structure you're in won't let you see those things.
Very true. Very true. It took me a long time to stop feeling broken. Oof, that was huge.
Yeah, so what comes up for me is I've been very mindful in this model that I've created because it goes from, the lowest of human evolution to the highest. And what I'm trying to be very careful about, Mary Jo, is no one's broken. No one needs to be fixed. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just at a particular location on the map of emotional evolution. That's it. That's all. And either you want to stay there or you don't. And if you don't, we can begin to build the bridge somewhere else. Totally up to you. But you're not broken and there's nothing wrong with you. You're just on a spot on the map.
Yes, and when you feel so deeply broken inside, it's hard to hear that.
Oh, Mary Jo.
Yeah, so anybody who feels that, like, I feel you, I hear you, I honor that you feel that way, and there are ways that you can heal, and you can work through some of that and find a different way, in your lingo, move the lens.
Well, and my apologies if it felt like that I was trying to minimize anybody's brokenness because that was not the intent. As someone who started out broken, right? I get that feeling. I mean, mine was, I'm just never going to be enough. It doesn't matter what I do. And that brokenness can show up with so many themes, right? Mine was less than. I'm just never going to be enough here. And I'm exhausted by this whole thing. So I get that 100%.
And I think when you're so deep inside of that, it's hard to see anything else. So I think what you and I both want to say is that we honor that feeling of brokenness, and there's hope that we can help you expand beyond it.
100%. Such a lovely way of saying it. And there's we have another mutual friend, Lisa, and she said this a long time ago, and it has haunted me. There are things across my life that people say, and for some reason, they just continue to work me. And she talked about she and her daughter had a agreement that when they went into the dark, they would say, the other one would say, and it was the magic words, this is the moment when you can't trust your own thinking. Mm. And that would allow them to raise, hopefully, up that person out of that darkness. And I love that they had a way to say that to each other, right? Yep, you're in the darkness. You can't trust your thinking right now. Follow me to the light.
Yes. And having a person, a community to be able to embrace and hold you and just support you in that moment is life-changing.
And I heard that in your description of the folks at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, right?
Yes, very much so.
And it's the same thing you and I get in the community of practice that we belong to together. These are just some of the most loving, kind people I've ever met. And it doesn't matter how you show up, they hold you.
Yes.
They love you. And to be given that gift, and Mary Jo, I'm going to blame you. I do this a lot with our mutual friend Dan Mormon. I blame him a lot because he says things to me and I go do them and I'm like, what? And so, Mary Jo, you told me to read the Richard Barrett books, and oh my gosh, they have restructured my world.
Yes.
I love you for telling me to go read those things.
Incredible books. And it's just a whole different capacity of light. It's just being in the presence. And it doesn't even matter what the words say. It's the energy of the words and just bathing myself in the words of his transmissions. Yeah.
It is one of the few books where I will sit there and hold it open and don't care if I read any of the words. I think
Yes.
that's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
There's just such an energy and reverberation and harmony coming from the pages. I just sit there and hold it. I don't have to read it. But reading it also, I mean, I've been shattered over and over in these pages. I love them, and I am so grateful you introduced me to them. Thank you for
I
that
am
gift.
delighted that you're enjoying them. Yes.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. There's a lot of firings happening in the world right now, unfortunately, Mary Jo. What is guidance that you would offer those who experience the same thing you did?
One of the things that, especially when I work with my clients, they're in the middle of it and they're like, I want the answer, I want it now.
Yes, sir.
Right? Why am I in this? Why am I here? Come on, let's get it. Then, let's move on. And with so many things in our life, things happen. We do the best that we can to muddle through. And years later, we're going to get the gifts. And so stay present. What shows up, trust what's appearing. It may be, for me, it was the proverbial 2x4, like, you need to get on a different path.
Mm.
And fortunately, I heard it. And it was not of my own choosing. If we go in and we say, I'm done with this, I'm quitting, right? We're at a different level of acceptance versus when change is imposed upon us. It's just a different way of dealing with the change, but just keep working through it. What lessons do you think, journal? Like, what are you feeling? Like, really become friends with your feelings, because there can often be guideposts. Even, I tell my clients, whole of life living, right? There's no bad feelings and good feelings. There's no good and evil. We're here to experience the whole of life. And when you shut down certain aspects of your life, you just kind of tamp down the whole thing. You lose joy.
Mm.
You lose connection. You lose some of those amazing things in your life because, again, we're building that prison of our own doing.
Mm.
So being able to stay open to whole of life living, whatever shows up, allowing yourself to be with it, but also, I used to tell my clients, clear and connect, ask and allow.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So first we clear, like, what's going on with me? Oh, I need to do blah, 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 right? We're trying to clear ourselves energetically, psychically, spiritually, right? And kind of clean up so that we can connect to something larger, open our hearts deeper, be in deeper connection with other people. And then the second part, to ask and allow, ask life, this is what's showing up for me. And allow those graces to come through and have gratitude for the gifts of the things that show up. And we often get stuck in the clearing. Well, I got to be better. I got to be better. I got to do more clearing, and at one point, one of my friends said, look, at this point, you got the mansion. You're just cleaning the windows. Like, get going. Right? You got what you need. Get going. Move along. Cleaning the windows is not going to make that big of a difference. Really, you have what you need. Trust, trust your guidance, trust your intuition.
Mm.
trust other people, who's in your inner circle. Like since that firing, my life is so completely different the way that I live,
Wow.
joyfully.
Mm.
And at one point, well, I wrote an email to the guy that fired me and, oh, I'm so glad things are changing. Blah, blah. And of course he wrote back and he says, well, it's a hard thing to do, but we knew, you needed that. And I was just like, okay, fine, whatever. I'm going to delete that email. I don't know what I was looking for, but you know what?
Yeah.
I gave myself what I needed.
Right. I call that the attempt to create balance, right? I believe in emotional balance and system balance. And what I've learned is that sometimes to create that balance, I can write the letter but not mail it. I can write the email and not send it. And part of that is the person on the other side may not care about balance. And so they're not going to see what I'm trying to do in the same way that I do.
Right.
And so I admire that you sent it.
I did. I was still pretty early in the ego thing. But I've come to a point now, I envisioned this infinity loop, right? Like love goes out, I connect, love comes back. It's this infinity loop. Like it's, I used to live my life over there. I got to please that person. I got to meet this criteria. Right. And my life was over there. And then, I got fired and was all over here. And that was out of balance, And this lovely infinity loop going back and forth between our hearts, right? You're here, I'm here. There's this continuity, this connectedness, this lovely space that we can both show up and breathe.
I love that. I love it. I love the infinity loop, right? It feels like our colleague Jim Anderson's 1 million heartfelt connections, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Right? Just meet the other person with your heart.
Yes.
But a lot of us are scared to do that because we've been betrayed and hurt and whatever. And that's part of the journey, isn't it? Evolving to where we can open the heart.
So one of the things that has been delightful for me is I get a lot of visuals that kind of help me understand the nature of the universe or life or whatever. And so the latest one I'd like to share with you.
Please.
So I love fountain pens. I love the sensation of writing with fountain pens, the ink flowing, the paper, get the right paper, right? So it's just a very joyful, meditative practice for me. So of course, they gave me this in my language. So I'm looking at a piece of paper and it's like I'm looking from the edge and I can see some of the surface. And I'm looking at the paper and I can see the lovely texture of the paper and its quality. And I'm like, oh, that's like yummy paper to write on, right? And then I look a little further and there's all kinds of writing all over this paper. And so the visual that they help me with is the words then lift off the page and then dissolve.
Wow.
And those words are the story that we tell ourselves. I am this. This is my role. I'm a spouse. I'm a wife, a mother, this, that. I'm a business person, right? It's all those, the relationship, it's all that ego stuff of how we define ourselves. And it gently lifts away. And then the paper dissolves. And I rest in core essence.
Wow.
And just this lovely place of light and connected. And the words just, they float away. It's like, okay, those words, we do that. But just stay here. This is home.
Wow.
And so how can I keep this sense of home alive in me every day, throughout the day? And then interact with the words from this beautiful place of core essence.
I love that. I don't really want to say anything. I want to just say, let's stop here. I want our listeners to just rest in that beautiful image. Is it okay with you if we just...
Yes. Yes.
I'm going to softly say thank you for being a guest. Love you dearly.
Thank you for being in my life. And to all the hearts that we're touching.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Sacred Gut Punch. I'd like to thank our sponsors who make this podcast possible, the EI 3.0 companies of Bryan Insights and the Center for Emotional Well-Being, and of course, always to my husband, attorney Jim Bryan. Thank you for your endless support and love. I love you to the moon and back, Jimmy. If you're finding inspiration in the stories, please like and subscribe to the podcast and share with your friends and family who can benefit from these stories of resilience and rising. And if you're experiencing a sacred gut punch, remember, while you may feel alone, you are not. Help is out there. If you or someone you know is in crisis and considering suicide or self-harm, please seek support. Call or text the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at 988, or chat at 988lifeline.org. And if you're not in the United States, Befrienders worldwide at befrienders.org can help you. Until next time, dear ones, may you use the difficulty as you rise with grace.